Guys, welcome to another episode of my Limitless series. This is a brand new series, and with me, as usual, I have my co-host who's joining me from Los Angeles. I call her the voice of the people. Here she is, Christina Tindale. Welcome.
Thanks, Ogie. It's good to be back in the studio with you.
Yeah,
in LA. Well, yeah, the LA studio.
Yeah, you're LA studio. I'm in the Bondi studio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And looking forward to today's conversation. I always don't like to know what we're going to speak about because I love to be put on the spot. So put me on the spot. What are we talking about today?
Well, we had a great conversation last week. And for anyone who hasn't listened to episode 2, I highly encourage you to go back and check it out because we got into your journey and really like how you started asking yourself these big questions that like led you to really contemplate what is infinity. And I just got so much from that I wanted to continue this conversation because, you know, the concept of infinity really stands out as something that you share and talk about, but also something that really stands out for me is your style of coaching and speaking and teaching. And it's I would love to know some of the origins of that because I know that you started off like not necessarily teaching, but you were a promoter in the self-development industry at one point. Yeah. And you know, your work is so different from that now, and I would love for you to share some of your story around like how you started out there and like where you are now and how that was a part of your coaching and teaching and speaking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that question, Chrissy. For me, I started, as I talked about in the last podcast, the last episode, it really started with a lot of curiosity. And by the time I was the age of 18, 19, I would say 19, by that point of my life, I had already my first business failure. And it was after the year 2000. So however old, because I remember it was the year 2000 because the Sydney Olympic Games were on. And I had just opened this cafe some months before that. And when the Olympics hit, like I was in the suburbs of Sydney, and my cafe just went absolutely dead quiet. It's because everyone was in the city or where the sport games were on, and I remember that year. It was the year 2000. It's also a year after my sister's death. I had my sister passed away in 1999. So there was just so much going on in my life around that time, from losing my sister to then, starting this business and then losing that business and just absolutely having no money, being dead broke. I pretty much had my accountant sit down with me after that cafe restaurant. I don't even know what I was doing owning a cafe restaurant. It's another story I can explain another time how I found myself there. But I remember just sitting there and my accountant was like, you got to declare bankrupt, and I'm like, I'm 19 years old. I mean, I can't. It's like, well, you've got no choice. And the truth of the matter is I had no choice but not to declare bankruptcy because I borrowed the money for that restaurant from my best friend's grandmother. And she agreed to back me and put her house as a guarantee on that loan. So I had no choice but to just keep striving and just keep paying the debts. I could not declare bankrupt, and I didn't. I came out of that, even with the doubt of my accountant, thinking that I couldn't get out of that, and I did. I paid all the debts off, and I paid my loan off that my best friend's grandmother guarantored for me, and God bless her soul. She passed away in the COVID period. But anyway, so that's what really got me started. I had a lot of pain, a lot of baggage, a lot of losses in my life at that point, and I found myself going to this this personal development seminar. It was like a introduction evening, and I rocked up there, and this guy got up there and he presented, how, he's going to help you turn $1 to $7 million in X amount of years. It was one of those, things. And I thought, but there was, what really interested me was he kind of was talking about, I can help you be a millionaire, but it's really about the person that you need to become. And that really resonated with me. And of course, I really wanted to do his seminar, and I can't remember, it was like $5,000 or $7,000, and I had absolutely there was no possibility for me to even borrow money. They would go, we can get you a loan. It wasn't possible because I was completely maxed out. I had absolutely no money. So, but what I did decide is I still decided I want to do this program. This is what I want to do. So I spoke to him and said, well, what if I brought in 3 people who also want to do this program? Can you sponsor me into the program? So I can't remember if it was 3 or, what it ended up being. But long story short, I brought my father, or I brought my friends, I brought everyone, people. I was very good at telling people about things, So I brought them along to this program, and I ended up having 3 people sign up. And so the speaker sponsored me, and I went in for free, and I did this 5-day program. Believe it or not, Christina, this used to be at the Hunter Valley, and and guess what? The retreat that I'm running a retreat for my one of my coaching groups, my Inner Circle coaching group, in March, which you're joining me, Christina. It's at that same venue. Like, this is where it all started for me.
Wow.
Yes. So that's where it all started. So I went to this retreat, and it just, I didn't, there was a money component. I think there was a very small component of that, but it was really, it was very similar to, Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, that kind of seminar. It was, it was board breaking, and, it was really profound. And then I wanted to work for them. I was like, I want a job. I want to do this. And of course, there was no job for me. I didn't really have an experience. I didn't even do sales. I had a failure in a cafe restaurant. It's like, so they didn't have a job, but they accepted me to volunteer at the retreats. So they would run these retreats, and it was like back then, personal development was absolutely booming. It was pumping. Like, you would have over 100 people in that retreat, that seminar, retreat, whatever you want to call it. And so I would show up once a month to go as a volunteer, and I would contribute and learn and From there, I kind of impressed them. They actually wanted to offer me a job in that company, but there were some terms I wasn't happy about. I don't know where I got the courage. Like they sat me down and said, "We want you," because back then I was trying to do everything to make it work. I had a network marketing business I was part of. I was doing everything. I was trying to succeed and just trying to get ahead. This 19, 20-year-old kid that just trying to get ahead and with no money, and already a very big failure underneath my belt. And I remember sitting down with the speaker, and he sat me down at one of the events and says, "Listen, I want to give you a job." And he said to me, I will give you earnings of over $10,000 a month. Because, he could see I brought more people in. Long story short, like, I actually brought more people into that, and more people signed up. And he could see that obviously what I was doing was influential, was working, and, was contributing. So he kind of saw the light and the possibilities in me, and I got excited by that. And he sat me down and goes, "Look, I can give you earnings of over $10,000 a month." Now that was huge. I can't tell you how big that was. And I remember the next thing he said just made my decision, and I said no. And and it's just because of my upbringing and the way I've been brought up. And my mum used to teach me, never let anyone give you an ultimatum. Like, walk away. It's, and he gave me an ultimatum. He said, I'll give you this job. I'll get you to work with me. I will earn you more than $10,000 a month. But there's one catch. And I said, well, what's that? You need to quit your network marketing business. And I was just like, no. And he goes, no, you don't need to tell me now. I want you to walk away and think about this. This is an earning of 10,000. And I said, and I don't know where this comes from, but it came out. And I was like, no, that's not, I'm sorry. I declined that offer. And he goes, no, take it away. I think it'll be wise for you to go and think about this. And I walked out of that office at that retreat. I'll never forget. And I turned my back on that company and I never went back there. And because, like, for me, it was like nobody should give me an ultimatum. And, I was, you kind of have this confidence when you're younger, even though I had nothing to be confident about in my life. My whole life had fallen apart. And so I made a phone call to someone who I knew in that network marketing business who also worked in the personal development industry and said, do you have any jobs? And he goes, come see me. And I went and saw him. And he worked for a company that would promote Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, some of the biggest speakers in that whole realm. And he sat me down and he goes, I can give you a job. And he said, you've got two options. Either I give you $500 a week and 5% commission, or I'll give you no wage and 20% commission. And guess what I took with absolute no money? I'll take the 20% commission. And for the first 3 months, I think I made $1,000. Like, it was very difficult, and it was a tough journey. And I remember I then brought one of my friends, because see, I just keep bringing people. I brought one of my friends who I met in the previous company. I said, hey, do you want a job? I'm working with the company that promotes Tony Robbins and all these guys. And he's like, yeah. So I brought him on, and he is one of my best friends, if not my best friend. I was the best man at his wedding, and he became my best friend from there. And I introduced him to that job, and now he is one of the directors of that company. And yeah, he continued on, and he's now the CEO of Forbes Australia. Like he's just. I'm so impressed about, what he did. But anyway, long story, this was about my journey. And but I remember the reason I brought him up is because him and we were both on the 20% commission and just making no money. And we're like, why are we getting no sales? Why? And it was a sales job. So anyway, that's how I started in the personal development industry. And when things really started to crank for me is when that same guy who hired me used to speak really highly of this guy called John DeMartini. And he would go, he was a massive advocate, John DeMartini this, John DeMartini that. And we went promoting John DeMartini. I didn't even know who John DeMartini was. No one really in Australia knew who he was. But one day, John DeMartini was in Australia and he was running a seminar. And at the end of that seminar, he invited people to come and meet with him. So I went because I heard of this John DeMartini. And I think he spoke for 30 minutes or something. Like it was the end of the seminar. It was like maybe 10, 15 people in the room. It wasn't a big room. And what got me was he used the word love, like so openly, so eloquently. And that so resonated because back then the word love, and you probably think, so what? He used the word love. Well, back then it was a woo-woo word. You wouldn't use the word love. I use it every day now. I say it's all about love, right? And that's what got me. He talked so much about love. And again, this is back to my upbringing. For me, it was all about love. I had this fascination about love. You talked in the last podcast episode about my fascination with the word infinity. Well, love infinity is the same, right? So I was like, I got to do his program. And I think it was about $1,000. And again, I didn't have that $1,000, but, like I told you, I had made $1,000 in about 3 months. And so I went and put some money down. Anyway, long story short, I ended up doing his program. And I thought to myself, wow, like it was phenomenal. It was really awesome. I then brought that speaker into the company that I was working. I was like, I want to bring this speaker into our company. So I brought it to my CEO, not my boss, but the CEO of the organization. And I remember I was so nervous to walk in. My first meeting of the CEO, I'll never forget. He came one day and he was doing a sales training for us because my boss, who's the guy that hired me, wasn't available that day. He was sick or wasn't available that day. So he came in and he just gave us his story and talked about, how, and when I say his story, talked about how he made his first sale, etc. And so he told us this story, and then after we left, after he finished, I was going down in the lift, and I happened to be with him, and I said, "Hey, I really enjoyed your training," and I said, "What's your role in this organization?" And he goes, "I own it. I'm the CEO." I was like, "Oh." So that was my only relationship with the CEO. And I was like, sorry, I didn't, well, good to meet you. And I had no relationship with the CEO besides that moment. And I just remember one day wanting to take John DeMartini and bring him to this company that I was selling, I was selling Brian Tracy programs for. And I went into, and I remember going in one morning, in the mornings I would get my Vegemite toast, my latte every morning from the coffee shop on the way into the office. I'd be making no money. I was on commission only. And one morning as I got I had my toast, my coffee, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that I just need to go speak to that CEO. I needed to even go above my boss because my boss didn't agree with me. He said that no, we're not going to bring him to this company, and I said to him, why not? And he was my mentor, and I said, if you can't tell me why not, I'm going to do it. Like, you need to tell me why can't we promote John DeMartini? And look me dead in the eyes and he says, because you're not capable of it. So wow. Yeah, that was. And this is where my involvement in the personal development industry came real serious, because at that moment with my coffee in one hand, my Turkish Vegemite toast in the other, I was trembling because I had this feeling, and it was like very early in the morning. It was like 7:30 or something, and I knew the CEO would be in his office because he used to start really early, and I just had this overwhelming trembling. I was trembling because I was just like, go to his office, go and speak to him, basically do this behind your boss's back. I mean, but forget about my boss's back. I didn't have to, who was I to go and talk to this guy about, hey, I've got the next speaker for you. And I'm absolutely sitting there in the lift. I pressed level 4 because that's where I was in, and the CEO was in level 1. And I pressed level 4, and it's almost my hand just went boom and pressed level 1. The doors open. It was dark because no one was there. The receptionist wasn't there, so I didn't have to go through the receptionist. And I just walked in there. His door was open. I knocked, and he looked up, and he just saw me there trembling. And he's like, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "I just want to tell you that I found this amazing speaker who I think is going to be huge, and I just want to let you know that I'm going to go promote him. And if you don't, and I just had this conversation with him, and he looked at me and he says, and I basically said to him, and he kind of was like, "Are you all right? Why are you so shaking?" And I said, "Because, my boss said that I shouldn't do this." And he looked at me and he goes, "Go to work. I'll come back to you." And I was like, okay. So, I expressed myself. Even if my voice was quivering, and I just, I thought I embarrassed myself. And I went back into the lift, and I was walking back to level 4. I saw my boss walking past me, and he gave me this look.
Oh.
So obviously the CEO called my boss, who was the director of our department, and fired him on the spot.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. And he was my mentor, right? And anyway, that's probably too much information about my part. But again, this is where things got serious for me. We sat down and my CEO invited me into the board meeting, and there was the marketing director, the CFO, and all the people that make decisions. And he said, "Tell us why we should bring out this speaker." And I started telling him, it's the next big thing. It's da-da-da-da-da-da. And I had no idea what I was doing, right? I wasn't even making sales for my department. And he said, and they basically went around the boardroom, and everyone went, "No, we don't even promote. No, we don't build speakers. We find speakers who are already big, and we market them." And this guy's a no one. So everyone went around the boardroom, went, "No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen." And he went to the CEO, and I'm sitting there seeing my dreams just be washed down the drain. And the CEO turns around and goes, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to say yes." And of course, the CEO overruled everyone. And everyone looked at him and goes, "Are you crazy? This is not the right call. This is not the right decision." And they said, what makes you say yes? And he goes, "I'm putting my money on this boy's certainty." And of course, he was talking to me because I just had this certainty about it. He goes, "I'm going to put my money on your certainty." But he goes to me, he gave me, it wasn't an ultimatum. He gave me a stepping stone. He said, "But here's what I want you to do, because the biggest problem right now is you don't even make sales for your department. How are you going to make sales for a John Demartini program?" And I said, "If it's something I believe in, I'll do it." Da, da, da. He goes, "Okay, well, if you can go make 3 sales for Brian Tracy," remember, I made like 1 every couple of months. Because if you can make 3 sales this week, maybe it wasn't this week, maybe it was in the next 2 weeks, or it was some achievable goal. If you can, and I was selling the programs, they were $5,000 program. If you can make that sales, then I will give you this opportunity. That week, I made 7 sales. Long story short, I became the manager of the John Demartini. Fast track that. I got to a point where I actually started my own company, and I was promoting John Demartini around Australia, and I became the biggest promoter for John Demartini around the world. And would take him for tours around Australia. Took him to Asia once as well, and that's how I started in the industry. Now, I guess the question is, well, how did I find myself doing what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
You know what, Christina? I got to a point where I was deep into the industry. And, we would have people flying in. I would have speakers that I'd take them on tour, and I would have, we were running events in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, you name it, Perth, anywhere, New Zealand. And I just got to a point where I started to wonder for myself. And I was like, you know what? All these programs that I've been part of, whether it was a speaker I promoted or program that I attended, I thought to myself, what's the use if I can't live it? And for me, the living it part was the love. Like, sure, we know the answer to happiness. One of them, a key answer, is to do what you love, right? But so many of us can't do what we love because we put borders before that, and it's like I need to do this. I need to get the money sorted first. I need to, there's so many different layers that become barriers of, I need to do this before I give myself permission or someone gives me permission to do what I love to do. When it's like, love, it's our strongest power. It's our strongest energy that we have. It's what we can truly use to manifest, the life that we love, and become the person that we love to be. But I would watch people come over and over again. And, doesn't matter what the program was, they still couldn't live it. And I don't know what live it means for you, but for me, it was like, if I can't live like, and be the person that I came here to be. And it has nothing to do with how much money I have or how much money I don't have, or who says I can or who says I can't, what someone else would think and what they won't think. Like it had to do with me. So I walked away from that organization and I sold the company. And for the next, I'd say 12 to 15 months, I just went, and I didn't want to do anything, and I wanted to find the answer of, I get this. I get that it's about love. I get that it's about, infinite. I get that we have infinite possibility, but why can't I live that? Because I don't want to and I never decided to become a coach or a speaker, but that's the question that used to drive me. It's like, what's the point if you can't live it? What's the point of the next seminar that I go to if I can't live it? Yes, it makes me feel great for the next 2 weeks, maybe even 2 months. But if I can't bring that into my everyday life and I can't live that, what's the point? And that's what drove me to start to look for these answers within myself, because I needed to find these. I needed to realize this for myself. And that's what self-realization is. Self-development is you're using tools, techniques, practices to improve, to fix, to improve and change things about yourself, or to help you fix, improve, or change things about your reality and about your story, to achieve the things that you want to achieve and do the things that you want to do, and so you can have the things that you want to have. And what I realized, I was on that train for a long time, and I want to say I became successful on that train. It was boats, cars, living in a house with view. Like, I was living at the Toaster, for those who know where the Sydney. But that's right in Circular Quay. You've just got a view of the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. It's just, so it wasn't like, but within my failures and within my success, there was still something missing. And I realized what was missing was myself, was not only realizing myself, like my real self, right? In other words, opening up and having a relationship with me, with who I truly am, and realizing for myself, and this is what we call self-realization. Self-realization is not something that you're realizing so you can fix, improve, or change. Because when you realize for yourself, the attachment to or the need to fix, improve, or change something in order for you to be happy is no longer there, Because when you realize the part that was missing for yourself, and that's the thing, you need to realize it for yourself. In order for you to be able to live it, you need to realize it for yourself. No one can tell you. It's realizing, and you see lots of people, whether Steve Jobs, back when he was alive, leaving Apple for a little while to go to India to find himself. You see this happen, often, whether someone who's really successful and you think to yourself, well, you should be happy because you've got all this money, or you've got all these people that love you, or you got if the self is missing, you're never happy. And I had to realize that for myself. And then I realized that, there's this whole conversation within the industry, the personal development industry, which is all about how can I attain what I want and attain it quickly and effectively. Again, I'm not here to rain on that. I understand it has its role. We want to learn tools, techniques, practices that's going to help us to do things, and that in order for us to have what we want to have. But what you got to understand, even in personal development, one of the first things I learned in personal development, they talked about that in order for you to have something, you must do something in a certain way. In other words, you must be good at what you do, right? So, but in order for you to do something in a certain way, or for you to do it good, you need to become the person that you need to become in order to do that. It's called the be, do, have principle. I don't know if they still call it that, but it's you need to be in order for you to do, in order for you to have. Self-development or self-help is all about the doing and the having. And the biggest piece that's missing is, like I said, is our self, which is our being, right? And we are a human being. We're not just a human. The human part is interested and fixated and entertained by what we got to do and what we got to have. But that's just the human part. So you're living with incomplete. That's why you feel like there's something missing, because you're incomplete. Because who are you? You're a human being. The being's part missing. And when I realized that, when I realized that for myself, I then found myself starting to talk to people about it, coaching, and before I knew it, I was speaking. So it was never a dream of mine to be a coach or a speaker. I'm more of an introvert, to be honest. And I was always very happy to be the man behind the curtain that would promote the speakers. But I found myself coaching and speaking about this because no one else was. Everyone else's there was so much wrapped up in what we got to do. Or it's like, well, what do you want? You go to a personal development. What do you want? This is what I want to have. Okay, well, this is what you got to do. And then you can 10x your business and you can do this and you can do that. But no one talks about what's still missing, because even the person who 10x's their business, if they still haven't realized for themselves who they are, they'll 10x, they'll 20x, they'll want 100x, or they will get the next six pack, or they'll get the bigger biceps, and they still feel empty. They still feel like there's a void, and they still feel like there's something missing because no one's talking about the being part. So that's what started my journey for me to share with people the self-realization. And today, all my work is all about guiding people to realize for themselves, because no one can tell you who you are. And by who you are, I'm not talking about what you look. I'm not talking about you standing in front of the mirror and going, I know who I am. I'm this physical being. I have 5 human senses. And yes, that is who you are, but it's not entirely who you are, because you also have a 6th sense. You also have a part of you that is your being, right? That it's not what it's looking into the mirror and looking deep into your own eyes and fucking opening your heart and feeling. That's who you are. Not how pretty you are, or how overweight, or this is what I've accomplished, or this is my dreams and my goals I'm gonna do. And no, who are you? Who are you? And until that's realized for oneself, they will always feel as though something's missing, something feels incomplete, something doesn't feel whole, and they will become driven to fill that void with what they do, right? Or even not do. I've got to stop doing this. I've got to start doing this, or what they have. They look to fill the void in creating more to have and even creating more to do, to the point when really the doing is to make yourself so damn busy so you don't stop to fill that void, to fill that incompleteness, to fill that emptiness. I know that because that's what I became really busy. I was traveling around the world. I was, promoting all these speakers, but there was always a Sunday night. I'll never forget the Sunday night where I was by myself. And it wasn't every Sunday night, but quite often a Sunday night, I'm sitting there, Circular Quay would become quiet. You can hear the water, a couple of horns from the boats, boom. Do you like that? Boom. And yeah, and I would sit there in that quietness and I go, fuck, something's still missing. I had this failure. I've had multiple failures. I'm now successful in my own right. Compared to my failures, I'm very successful. Why do I still feel though something's still missing? Something still feels incomplete. It's yourself. It's yourself. So, I'm not against self-help and personal development programs. I just think that if you are missing, doesn't matter what you can accomplish, you will never be happy. And you will always feel insecure. You'll always feel unsafe. Like, I'm making $10 million now, but I need to make 20 to make the $10 million safe. When I make $20 million, it's like, well, why not make $50 million? Because then if I can make $50 million, my $20 million now begins to feel more safer. Can you not see the pattern? What's it going to take? And sometimes it's that, or sometimes someone gets sick, or they have a near-death experience, and they reflect on their life. I'm like, far out, it's not about this. Or worst, someone's on their deathbed and they realize, you know what? It wasn't about the doing and the having. Yes, that's important and that's part of it. But I never realized who I am. And who you are is, it's your love. It's doing what you love. It's spending time with the people you love. It's about being present, which love's essence is the present moment. And it's about being the version of yourself that you came here to be, not the version of yourself that's going to get an applause from people, not the version of yourself that's going to give you recognition. No, but the version of yourself that you came here to be. The version of yourself that you love to be. There it is right there, Christina. There's all the love. It's to do what you love. It's to be who you love. It's to spend time with the people you love. It brings me to a story I once heard, and, we can... I've been going on for a while. Ends up being a long podcast, but this is a famous story. It's been written in multiple books now because it's a great story. And then I'll tell you guys really quickly. So there's this guy who's an American, big entrepreneur, businessman. He was working on the stock exchange, and he helps people to float their companies and list them on the stock exchange and all that. And he's really successful in America, but he's been working really, really hard and being really, really busy. Just like I talked to you about then. And he gets ill and he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, you need to take a holiday. Otherwise, you're going to kill yourself. So he agrees on taking a holiday, decides to go to Mexico. Arrives in Mexico, is there by himself, and every morning he goes for a walk and he sees this fisherman come back with some fish. And so one morning he strikes a conversation with this fisherman, this Mexican fisherman, and goes, I see you got some good fish. And he goes, yes, senor, I got some fish. I'm going to take some home and give some to my familia and give some to my amigos and then he goes, oh, cool. And so what else are you doing for the rest of the day? He goes, oh, well, we're gonna have lunch together. We'll cook the seafood, and and then my amigos will smoke some cigars, and we will play some cards, and then he goes, and then what else do you do? He's like, well, after that I'll have a siesta, senor. I'll have a rest, and then spend some more time with my familia at nighttime, and in the morning I'll get up and do the same thing. And he's like, but why don't you just do that all day, and then you have more fish to catch? And then when you have more fish to catch, you can actually sell it in the markets, and you can actually make some more money. And then the guy's like, "Sí, señor." And then what? And he's like, "Well, then we can buy more boats, and we could get some of these fish to America, and we can actually create a distribution channel." And it could be a big company for you. And he's like, and the guy's like, sí, señor. And then what? And he's like, well, I could help you list the company on the stock exchange, and we can float it. And it could be a big organization. And then you'll be set for your whole life. And he's like, oh, sí, señor. And then what? He's like, well, then you could smoke cigars with your amigos and just retire and play cards and spend time with your family. And he's like, but senor, I'm already doing that.
That's great.
I love that story. But it's it's been. I just want to say that we disguise the emptiness and the void by trying to fill it or by trying to be very busy. But my Sunday nights that would come around, I couldn't. Sometimes I would, this is back when I was single. Sometimes back then I would have a woman there to try to fill up the void. But when she left, I'm sitting on that balcony and going, why do I feel like something's still missing? Why do I still feel not enough? Even after my accomplishments, my success, my status, why am I still feeling alone? And I used to disguise that feeling by being really, really busy, because I realized that every time I stopped, I would feel that emptiness. So I just became really, really busy and became addicted to being busy, because when I was busy, doing what I love even, I would avoid that emptiness. But you know what? That emptiness never went away. And I'm glad it didn't go away, because that was an invitation for me to embrace who I truly am. It came from that emptiness.
Where did you find I don't know, I just feel like it takes so much, maybe you tell me I'm wrong about this, but the strength, the courage, the willingness to just surrender to that, to
I was shit scared, Christina. I was shit scared to walk away from what was working. I was so scared to just follow a feeling, because I knew it was true, but I couldn't prove it was true. It was not tangible. It didn't have a dollar figure to it. I started being absolutely frightened. But what frightened me more at some point was for me to continue on that treadmill that I was on, and know that the emptiness is there, and know that it was still bugging me. And I could see, because I started to have other associates and friends, and they might be 50 years old. And back then I was 24, 25. 26, I was the CEO of my own company and running all that. But no, by the age of 26, I was actually a coach and speaker. So, but I didn't have to look far to see that the path that I was on, because I could see everyone else was on that path. And when they're being honest, and if anyone was being honest with me, they would tell me they weren't happy. And I was like, I don't need to do this for another 40 years to work out that this is not what life is about, and this is not going to get me to, who I really am and what I'm really here to do, But today, I mean, I could sit here and tell you what my day looks like. I did that last week. I'm not gonna do that again. But today, I do what I love. I was this morning. I don't know what time it is, but Christina, I said to you, can we push the podcast back because I wanted to go to my son's presentation today.
Yeah.
Not every parent gets to do that. I get to pick them up. I get to drop them off. I get to wake up when I finish sleeping. I get to sleep well. I mean, so many of my friends don't sleep well.
Yeah.
Like, I sleep great. Like, I sleep, I've got my Aura ring here that measures my sleep. Like, I sleep amazing.
Yeah.
I do what I love, with this work. I have other business that I run as well, which is my aviation business. I was speaking to my personal trainer this morning. He's like, how much work do you do in your aviation business? I said, I just show up and fly. He goes, who runs it? I've got an operation manager. I've got a marketing team, who do the marketing. I just, I've got engineers. I'm the chief pilot, so I have a big responsibility there. But I show up once a week and fly planes because I love to do that.
Yeah.
I get to travel around the world in the front of the plane and in the back of the car, if you know what I mean, Chrissy.
Yeah.
I get to, one of the things that I really decided as a child, I never went on any holidays as a kid. I was born in Iran and then I went to Italy, started school in Italy. So that was my second language. English is my third. My first is Farsi, which is Persian. Second was Italian. And my third language is English. So I came to this country and where was I going with that? I just lost my thought.
Holidays with family.
Yeah. And I'm the only one in my family that's never left, never went on holiday. Never. My brothers, even my younger brother who was born here has at least gone back to Iran or, different places when we were kids with my mum because when he was born, he was young, my mum was, but I never went back to Iran. I never left this country. I never, ever went on a holiday. And I remember once around the same age of, when I'm telling you this story, I was about 18, 19 and I had a girlfriend at the time and she was my young love and she would always go on holidays. Her parents would go to Fiji and they would go. Anyway, they had these holidays coming up and they were going to, was it Heron Island? I think it was. It's basically in the north of Queensland, in the Great Barrier Reef, right? And she asked her father, can I bring Amir? I was her boyfriend. And he's like, well, if you, and this is the first time they accepted. And was like, because before, they wouldn't accept, of course. But, we were a bit older. She was a bit older. I think I was 19. And she said, can I bring him in? And he goes, well, if he pays for himself, he can come. And I remember trying to put all the money together and I was so excited. And I put the money in and I went on this holiday and I was like, wow. Wow. Like, the Great Barrier Reef and getting up in and the sunsets and there was a big chessboard and there was a guy playing the music with the sunset and then little cocktails and I was just like, wow, people get to do this? Like, this is fucking awesome. Like, and it was my first holiday and I loved it so much. It's bringing tears to my eyes. I was so appreciative of that experience. And I remembered right there, I thought to myself, you know what? When I have kids, I'm going to ensure they go on holidays multiple times in the year. And that's what we do. My rule of thumb for my family is that every time we come back from a holiday, and we go multiple times in a year, every time we come back from a holiday, my rule of thumb is within 2 weeks, we have to either decide and book the next holiday. And the next holiday is in you guys call it vacation. It could be 3 months, 4 months. It's not far. And sometimes it's, 2 hours drive. Our last holiday was Fiji. That was in October. What are we now? December. We got 2 holidays coming up. We've got Christmas. We're going away to Melbourne to visit the family there, her family. She's from Melbourne. And then after that, we're going to Byron Bay. We're going to a resort there. And I love that I can give that to my kids, you know? And so, I mean, you know, I don't want to sit here, you know, and, you know, toot my own horn or whatever you want to think that I'm doing. But the point is, it's a great lifestyle. And I'm just saying, it has nothing to do with grinding. It has nothing to do with pushing. It has nothing to do with even me hitting goals. I've achieved things in aviation and I refused to make it a goal. I refused to make it because I just wanted to see what happens. I walked into aviation. They sat me down. They go, "What do you? I want to learn to fly. Do you want to become a commercial pilot? Do you want to become an instructor? What do you want to do? Do you want a career in aviation?" I just want to fly. Teach me how to fly. But what's your goals? I don't have any. They were like, "Oh, this guy's got no goals. Let's see how far he gets." I'll tell you how far I got. I got my commercial pilot license. I got my instructor rating, my aerobatics formation. You know, I bought my own aircraft. I bought my aviation business.
Yeah.
I got far. Yeah, man, there's nothing more I want in my aviation business. Like at the moment, I'm like, "Hey guys, don't sell too many flights over Christmas because we can't fulfill them because we only open on Saturday and Sunday."
Yeah.
Can I open more? Yeah, but I don't want to. Why? Because I get to smoke cigars with my amigos, play cards, and take my family. Why would I want to open more?
Yeah.
You see, I'm referring back to that story.
Yeah, no, I thought about that.
I don't really smoke cigars, but not that there's anything wrong with that. But you know what I mean, Chrissy?
Yeah.
So,
no,
you know, it's not like I don't live as we say in Australia. You guys use this word, a shabby life. Like it's you know, my life ain't that shabby, if you like. You know.
Well, I loved hearing. There are some things today that I had not heard you share before, and I loved this conversation, and I loved where you took it. And there's this feeling that I was just having when you were sharing like that moment where it's like, no, I was scared, and I was thinking like in my own journey, like I've had those moments too, but like I've had you, I've had my group, I've had like, you know, this work to support me. And you went like and did that on your own. And I just have so much respect for that. And I just love that this work is now here, you know, like people can go and get that support when they're in that moment in their lives and they're scared. Like you don't have to do it alone. And so, you know, just go watch Limitless, listen, you know, go, you know, connect with us, send us an email and let us know where you're at. You know?
Yeah. You don't have to do it alone. Yeah. But, you know, for me, the thought of not doing it felt like it was something around my neck choking me and I was going to have a slow death. It was just the pain of not following that feeling, you know, despite the story, despite what I may lose, despite what people may think, despite, you know, losing, you know, I've been through it all. Eviction notices, car repossessed. I've been through it all, you know, and I am where I am today not because of achieving goals, but because of who I've become, because of becoming the version of myself that was here, that was present for me to become. It's then what I do becomes effortless. What I have is true. It's what's true for me. I don't want to go and make my aviation business 7 days a week. Why? I've already got what I want from it. You know, do I want to grow this business, my coaching business? Yeah, I do. I'm thriving to do it. I love that. I love to be able to share this with so many people. You know, there's some things I want. There's some, you know, but I don't just go grow a business because I can. I don't want to. I'm happy. I don't have any goals in it. It's so funny in aviation for people to hear that. I remember getting interviewed to become a chief pilot because in aviation you always need a chief pilot. So CASA, which is the government, the aviation government body that, you know, I think in America you got the FAI, and they sat me down to interview me to become a chief pilot, and they said, "Well, what's your goals for the business? What you got?" I said, "I don't have any." Why not? Because I'm happy with what I've got. And the guy was so taken back. He goes, "That's very profound." But I used to be embarrassed about saying I don't have a goal. I used to be, because it's like, well, if you don't have a goal, you don't have a plan, you've planned to fail. Oh, I didn't plan to fail. I didn't have a plan. My businesses don't even have a plan. There's no business plan. Not saying you don't need one. I'm not saying but for me, that's not the way the way I operate. If you operate that way, go for it. You know, it's just, you know, we could go on about this. It's such a big conversation. And you know what, Christina, it's been an honor to and I remember meeting you in and even LA, now coming to LA, like coming to America. I never had, you know, you're probably thinking, you're hearing this story going, well, you must have had some contacts because you used to be a promoter. So someone started to promote you and that's why you're successful. Listen to what I'm saying. No one was interested in promoting me. Not even my best friend. And I've no qualms about that because I get it. No, what I'm talking about is not in. You know, it's not what sells. So I totally get it. So I have no problem. You're like, your best friend didn't promote. Well, it's different. So there's no offense taken there. But I just want to make this clear because you might think, well, yeah, he was a promoter. So that's why he's you know, successful. No, I just got on a plane and I just rocked up to America. I just booked the venue and I just get up on stage. And sometimes there was 2 people, sometimes there was 10, and these days there might be 100. Tomorrow might be 1,000. The next day might be 50. I don't care. I just get up and fucking do it. There's power in that.
Yeah.
That's how I create anything. It's not the business plan. I just go. Now, don't get me wrong. The plan then unfolds moment by moment. And we're like, this is what's working. Okay, let's acknowledge what's working there. Okay, that then becomes a plan. But I didn't plan it. It unfolded. It revealed itself. And even those who are deeply into planning and having the right business plan, you would agree, and you sometimes would notice that the plan hardly goes to plan. You're always regenerating, recreating it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this wasn't about goals or plans, but it's not, you know, it's not my business how you want to do it. It's just, I'm just saying, do it the way you feel to do it, because there's no right or wrong way. You just got to do it what you feel. For me, it was just to get up and go and just go. And that's when I met Christina. That was the point I was about to make. I one day met her in Los Angeles, and that was over 10 years ago. So
yeah,
we're still friends.
We're still friends. That's good to hear. No, I mean, I love all of that. And I love that recently you've said that it's an art living this way. Like you called it an art. And so living infinitely or living, you know, limitlessly, however you want to call it. It's an art. And, you know, if this conversation has inspired you, which I'm sure it has, you can learn more and go watch Limitless. And you can also, I think we shared this in the last episode, but it's worth saying again in case they don't have the email. If you have any suggestions or questions rather, any feedback or any questions about the episodes, give us an email, shoot us an email, and maybe your question will be featured on a future episode of Limitless.
Absolutely. Like even right now, like I might have touched on something. You go, well, tell me more about no planning or whatever. I mean, we could, you know, I could do that. So, well, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for holding the space for me to share what I've shared. You're always amazing at that, Chrissy. So, and thank you to our listeners who tune in, and look forward to your next question you have for me, Chrissy.
Yep, me too. See you guys in the next perfect moment.
See you guys. Bye-bye.